So guys, if you've been house hunting lately, you probably asked yourself this question. Why does everything feel like it's so unaffordable that I can't afford it right now? I ask myself that question when I go to the grocery store. When you look at it, between the higher prices and higher interest rate, it's very easy to feel like buying a home is so far out of reach. But one thing I tell you is like your buying power may be stronger than what you think it is. Because when you look at things, here's the truth. It's not just about what you make. It's about how you manage of what you have. And that's really where buying power comes in. So what I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to break down the buying power, what it really means, and why affordability is stretched so much, and the exact steps to stretch your budget even further without even feel stretched thin. Now, the first thing I'll ask you is please like, subscribe to this page for more real estate tips, as I really focus on the education on everything. So first thing I want to touch upon today is like, what does buying power actually mean in today's market? Because when you look at things, the price of groceries are higher, the price of cars are higher, electricity, insurance prices, all that really factors into the buying power. But what a lot of people don't talk in, because it really takes away from your budget, but what a lot of people have not talked enough about lately is like the second and third order effects of what that's going to have on the housing market. Because what we had back in 2020, when interest rates dropped to a bottom down to 3%, people buying houses like Oprah Winfrey giving away cars. You're looking at 3% interest rate and everything else. The housing payment was so low, and it gave them so much disposable income from that. Now with that, because of the demand dropped so quickly, so fast, they had to raise the interest rate, and there was no more, the demand rose so quickly, interest rates rose with it because the supply just plummeted down to where, like in instances where it's like a 1 month or less inventory in some marketplaces. So like for an example, I'll give you on my house alone. Before I moved back here in New Braunfels, I had an offer on my house for $410,000. And I'll tell you right now, this house is not worth nowhere near $410,000. I did not take that offer, did not accept it because, one, I didn't want to sell because I knew that I was going to lose a lot of my disposable income, and I did not want to become house poor. So I kept the house that I'm in because I knew what the housing market at some point was going to have to correct itself. And that's what we're seeing today. And unfortunately, the ramifications on that is fewer people right now does not have the ability to even afford a house, or to afford to go on rentals. And now even with rental prices starting to raise again, that hopefully will drive some of the buyers back in the housing market. But still, with interest rates sitting so high, that's why affordability feels so much tighter than ever right now. So as I said, back in 2020, and I'm going to base this off the average home prices here in New Braunfels of where I do my real estate, is I'm not going to factor in insurance either. And insurance has a big play in affordability, but I'm not going to deep dive. I'm focused just on the principal plus interest. If you go back to my previous videos, I break down pity with that. Now, on a $350,000 home, when you look at 2020, the principal and interest just on that house at 3% was $1,475. So as 2020 hit, demand started rising a little bit in 2021. And this is really pretty much what beer math is. 4% interest rate, round about the average. That jumped the home prices about $1,670 a month. So at 2021 is really where it started. People like, if I want to catch these low interest rates and buy a house, I need to do it now, which that skyrocketed the demand in 2022 is where a lot of people, including myself, that's where we really considered the peak of the real estate market. And those interest rates were sitting in between the 5 and the 6 range, which still, when you look at the payment on a $350,000 house, you're looking at $1,878 a month. Now, in 2023, when it started kind of like it peaked, but started slowly taking a turn, interest rates were floating in really in between that 6 and 7% because they're still having to raise the rates. And that brought us all the way up to nearly $2,100 a month just for a $350,000 home. And then in 2024, that's where rates really peaked at, especially ironically when the Fed did its rate cut. If you go through my videos on Fed rate cuts, and And on interest rates, I can go in a whole nother set of videos, but I'm not going to chase that chicken there around anywhere. But the Fed, the rates were getting above, they were already above 7%. They even jumped all the way to about 7.5%, but we're going to say 7% at the very peak, which is really at the low end. But you can see that was $2,328 a month. Now today, interest rates have came back down a little bit. They're not as low as what people want. We're about 6.5, which is about $2,212 a month today, somewhere around there for a $350,000 home. But with that, guys, this is what I want you to see. Look at this number here: over $2,300 to a house that used to somebody be paying nearly $1,500 a month. That's over $800 a month more just on the principal and interest of the house payment. And that is over $10,000 a year increase over a 4-year period. Here's the thing. Wages alone have not increased by that much over that time period. I think the wages alone have increased about 2 or 3%, while you're seeing the house payments increased by 50, 60% just because of the interest rate. And when you look at it today, the average is about $737 a month, which is about $8,844 a year. Now, go back and you have to correct me as I really don't have the numbers in my head, but I want to say around about 2020, the average salary for a family is about $80,000. I think today is around about $88,000 a year. And that's with working spouses too. I mean, that's like 2 incomes coming in for most families. And that's how my wife and I are, our 2 incomes coming in. But when you factor all this out, this is why everything feels tighter. And that doesn't even count for the raises of the insurance rates, the rises in the groceries, but also there are certain things that you're having to buy things on credit. When you're buying things on credit, you're paying that interest rate on that credit card, which that makes your budget feel much tighter. Which brings us into the next part of what I want to talk about, the biggest factors that are impacting your true budget. Bottom line is, and I hate to tell people this, I have this problem, is your spending habits. If you don't have good disciplined spending habits, it makes that chance of really like affording a home without becoming a house poor, it makes it really, really difficult. And like spending habits I'm talking about is like purchasing things that you don't really need. So what are needs versus wants? I mean, needs are feeding your family. Wants is like, I want that brand new TV that just came out on the newest model, or I want that Netflix subscription to go alongside of my YouTube subscription, to go alongside of my Amazon subscription, to go along with my Fubo subscription. Oh, by the way, I also have cable TV too. Cutting those factors out, and then also limiting and paying the credit cards off, because if you let the credit cards just stack and stack and stack, then you're going to be left with you're going to be constantly living and getting swallowed up in debt. So that's why, like, when I sit down with a lot of families, I'd like to take a look at their budget to see what they can afford, because I don't want to see people go house poor. And look, I have seen people get approved for loans all the way up to what we call debt to income ratio. And it's a total debt to income ratio of 69-70%. And what that means is like 69-70% of your total income is already accounted toward vehicle payments, to credit card payments, to your house payment. That's everything included. That means 30% of your salary is all that you have left for disposable income. That's for gas. That's for your groceries. That didn't even account for your savings. So are you, like, out of that 30%, can you still take 10% and put in your savings? That's why we find so many people living paycheck to paycheck, is because the lack of the planning factors in there, or going over budget, think that they could just stick it out for a little bit. And I've seen a lot of families that think they could stick it out a little bit. And unfortunately, I mean, I've worked with some families that think they can stick it out, and just life just happens where they're having to sell, just having to move out of their homes and sell their homes real quick. Nobody wants to be in that situation. And I, as a real estate agent, I don't want to place people in that situation. That's why and this is actually one of the reasons why this is one of the biggest reasons I got into real estate. So as I said before, like back in 22, when I had the offer on this house for $410,000, yes, I could have taken that offer, but The thing of it is, what a real estate agent wouldn't explain to me is like, well, you got to go purchase another house at a higher interest rate. Wait a minute. And by the time what people were doing, what a lot of people were doing, even agents, and it's like, I got it. But people are going to purchase what they want to purchase. But how much are you advising? How much are you teaching people? Like, could be the future impacts. This is why I tell people, don't buy on FOMO. So many people buying on fearing of missing out, it costs them money in the long run. And the reason why I got into real estate is to get the people see the bigger picture, to help people plan. Because when you purchase a home, it is your biggest asset. Guys, and this is what's going to bring me to my last point with everything, is how can you boost your buying power? And sometimes you can boost it without even earning a penny more. And really where it starts, it's going to start with making a budget plan. My wife and I, we've done this quite a bit in our lifetimes where we're like, life happens, we're moving, and we have a little bit of credit card debt, more than what we want. So we have to make a budget on how we get out of the debt. We do get out of debt every time. The only time I don't get out of debt is when I don't have a budget. That's why I always keep a budget now. How much income goes here to pay off this, to pay off that, to pay off this? So actually sitting down, having a plan, looking at what your income is and how much of your income can you put that to those credit card payments. Get rid of those credit card payments. The second part of it is, and this may hit a lot of people hard, is like, look at your car payments. Because credit card payments really, when you look at debt to income ratio, credit card payments only factor in so much of your debt to income ratio. But what factors in quite a bit is going to be that car payment. And unfortunately, vehicles have gotten very, very expensive lately. I understand that people need a vehicle, but do you really need the newest model that's $90,000 to $100,000 that you're going to be making $1,400 a month on payments? Now, with that, if you're able to afford the payments, by all means, get what you want and everything else. But look at that. If you're trying to buy a home with it, look at how it fits in the budget and what you can afford within that budget. Other things, get rid of those little minute things that you don't need. So like if you got with cable TV, you're good enough. Or if you got your Netflix subscription, you don't need to subscribe to every shiny little tool that's out there. And I am the person, I love to chase squirrels and I love to get the shiny little tools, but sometimes we just need to pull back from that and just like focus on what the needs are. Because overall, like when you're like looking at purchasing a house, you don't need to be looking at purchasing like from the short-term point of view. You need to be able to project long-term. Look at your home, look at what you're trying to accomplish, and look at your goals. Especially like, because when you look at real estate, like the market, yes, right now, it's in a downturn. Nobody can argue that. I don't care what a real estate agent tells you, like the market's great. Now, the market's in a downturn, but the good news is it's actually great for buyers right now. But you have to be ready for what's coming and what you can afford. You don't want to just jump into something because it's a bright new shiny object out there. That's one of the things I talk about with buyers especially when it comes to new home constructions. They're like, well, the interest rate is so much lower, I can afford it. Yes, you're right. It may be a lot more affordable because of the interest rate, but my question is to you is you're going to be spending sometimes, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 more for that new construction than that one that's down the street that a seller is trying to sell. Well, that's at a higher interest rate. Yes, it is right now, but what about when interest rates come down? But bottom line, it still has to fit in your budget, and these are the things that I talk to people about. Is like making sure that you get your home and you get your future, whether it's a starter home or a lot of things I work with. I work with a lot of downsizers moving from a bigger home because they've had life happen, kids moved out of the house. Now they're trying to get to a smarter home. So guys, one thing I'll tell you to kind of close everything up, if you're wondering about how much of a home you can really afford, guys, let's talk. Please subscribe to these videos because this is what I do. I educate people so they can make wise decisions. I am not going to make the decision for you. I am not going to push you into that decision. But I'm going to help guide you So you can make the decision that fits your lifestyle, your needs, and your goals. Leave your comments. I want to hear what you think and what your biggest fear in the real estate market is right now.